The internet broke when Emily posted the photos. 3 weeks after her husband's body was found in a rocky ravine deep in the Utah wilderness, Emily's Instagram came alive with pictures of her and another man, grinning wide in tropical sun, fingers interlocked, drinks in hand, kissing on a white sand beach with the hashtag honeymoon vibes. The man in the photo wasn't her husband. It was her ex-boyfriend. And this wasn't a throwback post. The internet did what it does best. It exploded with shock. Friends and strangers alike were commenting non-stop. Wait, didn't your husband just die? 3 weeks? Who's the guy? People zoomed in on the details, a timestamp mistake, a tagged hotel in Aruba, and someone caught the license plate of a rental Jeep in the background. A plate that had been issued 2 weeks after her husband died. There was no hiding now. Emily had just revealed something the police hadn't. And she didn't even seem to care. She posted more the next day, pictures of her in a bikini, laughing in the ocean with her ex, Jason. "Best days of my life," she wrote. But what nobody knew, not yet, was how much of this wasn't just shocking. It was suspicious. See, Emily's husband, Ben Wallace, hadn't just died on a hike. He'd disappeared. The search for him lasted days. And when they finally found him, something didn't sit right. A lot of things didn't. But the truth hadn't come out yet. Not then. And someone, a local ranger, was just beginning to notice the first clue that would unravel everything. But to understand how we got to a tropical honeymoon with a dead husband in the ground, we need to go back. Back to when everything still looked perfect. Ben Wallace was the kind of man people liked instantly. 32, a software engineer with a shy smile and kind eyes. He wasn't flashy, didn't wear designer clothes, but he listened when you talked. He remembered things, like how his barista's dog had gotten sick last month, or what book his neighbor was reading. He met Emily 2 years ago at a tech conference in Austin. She was beautiful, smart, a nurse who had just moved from Oregon to Dallas. They had one of those quick-burn romances, fast, fun, full of long texts and weekend trips and late-night phone calls. Within 8 months, they were engaged. The wedding was small, quiet, tasteful, just like them. Held in a garden on the edge of a lake. Emily wore soft ivory and carried lilies. Ben looked like the happiest man on earth. That was 3 months before the hike. It was Ben's idea to go hiking alone. He said he needed to clear his head. The startup where he worked had just folded, and he was between jobs. Emily suggested they take a short trip together, maybe to Colorado or even Cancun. But Ben wanted something different, quiet, away from everything. He told Emily he was heading to Zion National Park. Just him, his pack, a new trail he found online, and his GoPro. She didn't like the idea of him going alone, but Ben was gentle about it. "I'll check in every day," he said. "I'll drop a pin, just like last time. And I'll text you when I reach the top." Emily nodded, smiled, and helped him pack. Ben drove off on a Thursday morning. That night, he sent her a selfie, him in a red windbreaker, standing beside a trail marker that read Angel's Edge. He looked winded but happy. Then nothing. Friday came and went. No texts. No pin drop. Saturday morning, Emily called park rangers. They logged it as a missing hiker and began the search. Helicopters flew. Drones scanned. For 5 long days, nothing turned up. Then a park ranger named Miguel Torres spotted something, just a flash of red among the rocks at the bottom of a steep ravine. They found Ben's body. Emily arrived 2 hours after they pulled him out. She didn't cry, not at first. She just stood there, hugging her own arms, looking down into the canyon. Miguel, the ranger, told her gently that it looked like Ben had slipped and fallen. Maybe got too close to the edge while trying to take a photo. He was always a little clumsy, Emily said. Then she let out a small laugh, just a puff of air, and added, "I told him not to go alone." Miguel raised an eyebrow. Something in her voice wasn't quite right. But grief is weird, he told himself. At the funeral, Emily sat in the front row with dark sunglasses on, face unreadable. She didn't say much. Didn't talk to many people. After the service, she left quietly, got into a rented black SUV, and drove away alone. That night, she deleted every picture of Ben from her Instagram. A week later, Emily quit her job. She told her boss she needed space, maybe a break from the whole state. Too many memories, she said. And then she was gone. No one saw her again for 2 weeks. Until those honeymoon photos appeared. That's when everything started to fall apart. Back in Utah, Ranger Miguel hadn't forgotten the strange details from the scene. Something bothered him, something he couldn't let go. A gut feeling. The fall didn't look quite like an accident. He hadn't said anything yet. But he'd taken pictures. Notes. Now, seeing Emily in those photos, smiling like she'd won the lottery, something inside him clicked. He called the local sheriff. "There's something wrong with that woman," he said. "And I think she might have had something to do with her husband's death." The sheriff paused. "You think she pushed him?" Miguel didn't answer right away. "I think she planned something," he finally said. "And I don't think he ever knew what was coming." Just then, another message popped up on Miguel's phone. It was from a park volunteer who'd helped during the search. The message read, "Hey, you're not going to believe what I just found in the lodge trash bin. Meet me by the staff cabin in 20 minutes. Miguel's heart jumped. He grabbed his keys and headed into the dark. Something was coming. Something big. Miguel pulled up beside the staff cabin, headlights off. The mountain air was sharp and cold. His boots crunched against the gravel as he stepped out, flashlight in hand. The old ranger lodge loomed in the dark, a shadow against the moonlit pine trees. The volunteer, Anna, waved him over. She was young, maybe 22, a college intern studying environmental science. Her face looked pale under the porch light. "I wasn't even looking for anything," she whispered, clutching a black plastic bag. "I was emptying the bins behind the visitor center when I found this in the recycle barrel." Miguel took the bag and opened it slowly. Inside was a phone, an old iPhone, screen cracked, covered in dried mud. The screen flickered faintly when he pressed the side button. It wasn't Ben's main phone. That had already been returned to Emily after the Rangers found his body. This was another one. "A burner?" Miguel asked, frowning. "Maybe," Anna said. "Or a backup. I don't know. But look at the photos." He held the power button until the screen buzzed to life. Surprisingly, the phone wasn't locked. Miguel opened the camera roll. The first image was blurry, shoes in a tent. Then more, rocks, trees, a selfie of Ben with a half-smile. The timestamp showed they were all taken 2 days before his death. Then, the last 3 photos made Miguel's stomach drop. They weren't taken by Ben. The angle was different. Hiding. Watching. One photo showed Ben sitting near the cliff's edge, drinking from his water bottle. The next, Ben turning around, looking over his shoulder. His face looked tense. And the final one, taken from the trees, captured him standing, facing someone just out of frame. Miguel looked up. Who the hell was with him? Anna swallowed. "I think someone followed him." Miguel stared down at the cracked phone screen, his gut twisting. "Or waited for him," he muttered. 2 weeks earlier, the world had been quiet for Emily Wallace. She was alone in her apartment in Dallas, sitting on the edge of her bed, scrolling through her phone. Ben was still missing at that point. The news hadn't reached the media yet, just a few local alerts. She had already packed her bags. Across from her was Jason, the ex-tall, lean, always with that smirk on his face like he knew something everyone else didn't. They had dated years ago, But Jason had a reputation and Ben was the opposite, reliable, gentle. So she'd chosen Ben. For stability. But now, Jason was back in her bed. Back in her life. And Emily was laughing. Not crying. Laughing. She held up her phone and said, "If they don't find him by Friday, I'm calling the lawyer to start the claim." Jason raised his eyebrows. "You're not even going to wait a full week?" She shrugged. "He didn't leave a will. But I'm his wife. I get everything. Savings. Life insurance. His stock options. The condo." Jason leaned closer, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "And what about us?" Emily smirked. "We wait a few weeks, go somewhere sunny, and live like we're newlyweds." Jason chuckled. "But no one can know," she added quickly. "Not yet. We wait. We play it smart." Jason nodded. But that phone, her personal one, was still running Ben's GPS tracker in the background. A detail she forgot to disable. A mistake that someone was about to notice. Back at Zion, Miguel couldn't sleep. He brought the phone to the sheriff's office early the next morning. Sheriff Dana Cobb was skeptical at first, but the pictures told a different story. They forwarded the photos to the state forensics lab and began pulling records, Ben's financials, texts, and call history. Then something weird popped up. Ben had purchased a second plane ticket weeks before the hike. 2 seats, round trip to Salt Lake City. One under his name. The other? Jason Abbott. Miguel blinked. Why would Ben buy a ticket for his wife's ex-boyfriend? Sheriff Cobb frowned. Unless he didn't. They called the airline. The purchase had been made using Ben's credit card, but from an IP address that didn't match any of Ben's devices. Someone had used his card to buy a ticket for Jason. And that ticket had never been used. Think he caught them together? Cobb asked. Miguel nodded slowly. And maybe that's why he went hiking. Alone. Angry. Or maybe, Cobb said darkly, he never made it to the hike alone at all. Meanwhile, Emily was already in Aruba. She wore a white 2-piece swimsuit and gold-rimmed sunglasses. She and Jason had just finished a private boat tour, and now they were sipping cocktails under a palm tree. A waiter walked by and handed Emily a small envelope. It was from the resort front desk. She opened it lazily. Inside was a printed photo, one of the same images from the burner phone. The one where Ben was being watched. Her drink slipped slightly in her hand. Jason, she whispered. Someone took this. Jason took the photo and stared at it. His jaw tightened. Where did this come from? He hissed. I don't know. Jason looked around, scanning the crowd near the bar. The tourists. The workers. Everyone. Suddenly, Emily's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Thought you said it was an accident. See you soon. She stood, her breath caught in her chest. Then, the resort speakers played a loud chime. Attention guests, the 3 p.m. snorkeling tour is now boarding from the east dock. A figure stood on the far end of the dock, arms crossed, watching them. Just watching. Emily's blood turned cold. Jason turned to her. We have to leave. But it was too late. Their names had already been flagged at customs. And someone was already on their way to the island. That night, back in Utah, Miguel sat alone in his truck overlooking the canyon where Ben had died. He held the burner phone in one hand, a hot coffee in the other. The wind picked up. His radio crackled. Sheriff Cobb to Miguel. You there? Go ahead. We pulled prints off that second phone. Just got the report. Miguel sat up straighter. Cobb continued, aside from Ben's, there's a partial match on the back of the casing. Took some digging. But guess who it belongs to? Who? Miguel asked. Cobb's voice was low. Jason Abbott. The wife's ex. Miguel's eyes narrowed. We're calling the FBI, Cobb added. This just crossed state lines. And as Miguel looked out at the canyon, at the very spot where Ben had fallen, something flickered in the back of his mind. Something about the last photo. The shadow. The angle. And the shoes in the corner of the frame. He zoomed in one more time, and froze. Because the shoes in the photo, they weren't Ben's. They were Emily's. Miguel's heart pounded as he stared at the zoomed-in photo. Women's hiking boots. Light beige with a red lace trim. Not the type of boots you'd buy last minute at a gas station. These were fitted, broken in, and, according to the store receipt Miguel remembered seeing in the case file, purchased 3 months before the trip. The store had recorded the name on the customer's loyalty card. Emily Wallace. She had told investigators she never joined Ben on his hike. She had an alibi, said she was working double shifts at the hospital. But now Miguel had a photo, taken near the ledge where Ben died, clearly showing her boots. He sent the photo to Cobb. 5 minutes later, Cobb called back. Let's get her back from Aruba. I'll make the call. Miguel shook his head. If we wait, they'll vanish again. She knows we're on to her. Someone sent her the photos already. I think we need to go there. Now. Cobb sighed on the other end. You sure? Yes. All right, Cobb said. Book the flight. At the Aruba resort, things were falling apart for Emily. She couldn't sleep. Her phone kept buzzing with unknown numbers and blocked messages. You lied about everything. We know who was on the trail. You can't cover this up forever. Jason was pacing the room, angry. Why are they doing this now? Why didn't they say anything sooner? Because they didn't have proof before. Emily snapped. Someone must have found that second phone. Jason looked at her, face hard. Then we need to leave. Today. Emily paused. We can't. We're flagged. I checked. Someone notified the embassy. If we try to fly out now, we'll be stopped at the airport. Jason clenched his fists. Emily sat down on the edge of the bed, trembling. I told you we had to wait. I said don't post the pictures. Jason glared. You were the one who couldn't resist showing off. You wanted to rub it in. Act like the world forgot already. Emily's voice dropped to a whisper. Because I thought we were safe. He leaned closer. Well, we're not. Suddenly, the resort phone rang. They froze. Emily picked it up, slowly. Hello? A pause. Then a voice, Mrs. Wallace, this is U.S. Consulate Services. We've been informed you're currently staying at Sandfire Beach Resort. There are 2 agents en route to speak with you. Emily's hand shook as she hung up the phone. Jason stared at her. That's it. We're out of time. 3 months ago, things had been very different. Emily had just received a rejection from the mortgage company. Ben's student loans and startup debts made it difficult to qualify for their dream home. She was sitting at the kitchen table, flipping through papers, while Ben cooked dinner. She'd been stressed, irritable. Ben had been talking about taking time off, maybe hiking solo for a few days. I think I just need a break, he said, flipping a piece of chicken in the pan. Get some air, find peace. Emily stirred her drink and looked down at her phone. A new message had popped up. It was from Jason. Still miss you. Wonder what would have happened if you'd picked me. Emily stared at the message a long time. Then replied. Me too. That night, she didn't sleep beside Ben. She claimed she had a headache. Ben thought it was just stress. But Emily was already making plans. In Aruba, Jason zipped their bags while Emily stared out at the ocean, biting her lip. She grabbed her phone, opened the GPS tracking app that Ben had always used for his hikes. She scrolled through his old trail logs, but something caught her eye. A final log, one that had never been opened before. It was time-stamped a day after Ben supposedly died. She tapped it. There was a single video. It began with heavy breathing. A camera, probably the GoPro, was lying sideways on a rock. You could see the sky, then a quick blur as someone picked it up. Ben. Blood on his forehead. Clothes torn. He was alive. And he was crawling. His voice came through faint and cracked. If anyone finds this. I didn't fall. Someone pushed me. I saw them. I saw her. I don't know how, but she followed me. She. The video glitched. Then cut off. Emily dropped the phone. Jason turned around. What? She didn't answer. Jason picked it up, watched the clip silently, then looked up at her. This was never supposed to exist. Emily backed away, eyes wide. We didn't see a camera. We searched. Jason clenched his jaw. Then someone found it after. Maybe that park ranger. He's the one sending the photos. Emily shook her head. No. This can't come out. If that video reaches the police. Jason stepped closer. Then we're done. Suddenly, someone knocked on the hotel door. 3 firm knocks. Then silence. Emily's chest rose and fell rapidly. Jason stepped toward the peephole and peeked out. 2 men in dark suits stood in the hall. Jason turned. It's them. He grabbed Emily's arm. Out the back. Now. They rushed to the balcony and looked down. A maintenance ladder hung along the side of the building. Jason helped Emily over, and they began to climb, shaky and desperate. Below them, someone stepped onto the beach, phone pressed to his ear. It was Miguel. He watched as 2 shadows moved down the ladder toward the resort alley. And he smiled. Because the trap was already set. Back in Utah, Sheriff Cobb was sitting in her office when the lab called. The voice on the other end was urgent. Sheriff, we just got the voice match back on the GoPro audio. And? It's Ben Wallace. No doubt. Cobb exhaled. And the woman he names? There was a pause. Confirmed. Emily Wallace. And the tone analysis shows he believed it was her. He was scared. Not confused. It's being filed as a homicide. Cobb closed her eyes for a moment. Then picked up the phone and called the embassy. This is Sheriff Dana Cobb, Utah State. I'm calling regarding Emily and Jason Abbott. Tell your agents not to stop them at the hotel. The voice on the other end hesitated. You want us to let them go? No, Cobb said, her voice sharp. They're not going anywhere. We already arranged a ride. Good, Cobb said. Then let them get in the car. She paused. And don't tell them who's driving. Emily and Jason rushed into the waiting black SUV in the alley, breathing hard. Emily glanced nervously at the driver, a tall, dark-skinned man in a baseball cap who didn't say a word. Airport, Jason barked. The driver nodded and pulled away from the resort. They didn't notice the U.S. flag sticker on the corner of the windshield. They didn't notice the small camera recording them from the rearview mirror. And they definitely didn't notice the badge tucked in the driver's front pocket. They just sat back, thinking they were escaping. But they were heading straight into the arms of justice. And as the SUV disappeared into the traffic, a quiet voice crackled over Miguel's earpiece on the beach. They're in. The SUV moved smoothly along the coast highway, sun dipping low behind the palm trees. Emily sat pressed against the door, arms folded tight. Jason tapped his leg, eyes scanning every passing vehicle. The driver said nothing. After 15 minutes, Jason leaned forward. How long to the airport? The driver gave a slow, measured reply. 10 more minutes. Jason nodded but didn't relax. Emily glanced in the mirror and met the driver's eyes. Something about them felt familiar. She turned back to Jason and whispered, "He's watching us." Jason reached for his phone. "I'm calling someone. Just in case." But the moment he unlocked the screen, the driver made a sharp turn off the highway, tires screeching as they veered onto a narrow dirt road. "Hey!" Jason shouted. "This isn't the way to the airport." "No," the driver said flatly. "It isn't." He pulled the SUV to a stop behind an abandoned sugar mill. The jungle surrounded them, thick and quiet. Jason lunged for the door. But it was locked. The driver reached under the seat and pulled out a badge. FBI. "Hands where I can see them." Emily gasped. Jason froze. Then, from the trees, 2 more agents emerged, guns drawn, badges up. Jason Abbott. Emily Wallace. "You're both under investigation for the suspicious death of Benjamin Wallace. You are not under arrest yet, but we have a lot of questions. And I suggest you answer them honestly." Emily's face went white. "You can't prove anything." The agent who had been driving turned to her. "We don't have to. Your husband already did." He held up a USB drive. The GoPro footage was recovered, enhanced, and authenticated by 2 independent labs. "You lied about not being there. Your boots were in the photo. Your prints were on the camera. And the trail log puts you right behind him when he fell." Jason shook his head. "We didn't push him. He slipped." "But you were there," the agent snapped. "And you ran." Emily broke. "He was angry. He confronted me." "You were following him?" Jason tried to cut in. "No. We're not asking you," the agent said. "You're not the one who's about to inherit $500,000 in insurance." Emily looked like she might faint. The agent continued, "You were in debt. You hated that he quit his job. You reconnected with your ex. And you waited until Ben was completely alone before showing up." She stayed quiet. "We know you were there, Emily. What we need to know is, why was Jason's name on the plane ticket Ben bought? What was the plan?" Emily started to speak. Then stopped. Jason glared at her. "Don't say a word." The agent raised a brow. "That's fine. We'll let the grand jury sort it out." Back in Utah, Miguel sat in front of a whiteboard full of photos, Ben on the trail, screenshots of Emily's Instagram posts, a map of the ravine. The burner phone sat in a clear evidence bag. So did a red GoPro memory card. He had spent the last few days chasing every thread. What he found painted a disturbing picture. Ben had indeed bought 2 tickets. He was trying to confront Jason. Text messages from Ben's computer, recovered from his cloud account, showed that he suspected Emily was cheating. He had even written a draft email to Jason. "You think I don't know? I've seen the texts. I just want to talk. Man to man." The message was never sent. But it proved intent. Ben was heartbroken, not stupid. He had gone to the trail to be alone and think things through, but someone followed him. 2 someones. Miguel leaned back, closed his eyes. He kept thinking about Ben's face in that video, bruised, bloodied, but trying to speak. Trying to make sure the truth didn't die with him. 3 years ago, Emily and Jason had been inseparable. They lived fast, partied hard, and eventually crashed. Jason had been arrested for credit card fraud, and Emily had left him, tired of the chaos. But Jason had always been her weakness. So when she found out Ben was pulling back, losing money, wanting to simplify, Emily had grown restless. Jason reappeared at just the right moment. The plan had been simple. Emily would convince Ben to go hiking alone. Jason would follow at a distance. Once on the edge, one accidental shove, and then, freedom. Wealth. A fresh start. No witnesses. No questions. What they didn't expect was Ben surviving the fall, long enough to make a video. What they didn't know was that he had set up a backup GPS app, one that uploaded his data silently to a private cloud. The video had sat on a secure server until a routine software ping sent it to Ben's emergency contact. That contact? His younger brother, Matt. And Matt had given it to the police. In Aruba, Jason sat in a dim holding room, fingers tapping the steel table. Across from him, the FBI agent leaned forward. Ben didn't just fall. You were there. Jason scoffed. Prove it. The agent smiled. We already did. He slid a photo across the table. Jason paled. It showed Jason's face, captured in the reflection of Ben's GoPro lens as he approached from behind. Jason swallowed hard. In the next room, Emily sat crying, hands shaking. Her lawyer stood beside her, whispering into her ear. If you cooperate now, you might avoid life in prison. But you need to talk. You need to say everything. Emily wiped her nose. I didn't mean to, we just wanted to scare him. To make him feel what I felt when he ignored me. Jason said we could fake it. I never thought Ben would fall. The agent leaned in. But he did. Emily nodded slowly. And you left him there. Her voice broke. He was still alive. I heard him crying for help. But Jason said if we helped him, he'd know it was us. We panicked. We just left. The room went silent. The agent clicked off the recorder. Sheriff Cobb stood beside Miguel on a video call from Aruba. Emily had confessed. Jason was silent but cornered. The U.S. attorney was already preparing charges. Murder in the second degree. Fraud. Tampering with evidence. Conspiracy. Miguel watched the screen quietly. Ben did everything right, he finally said. He didn't deserve this. No, Cobb said. But because of him, justice is coming. Miguel nodded. Then Cobb added, we've arranged for Ben's brother to receive the footage. He should know the truth. In Dallas, Matt Wallace opened the flash drive and watched his brother's final moments. Silent tears ran down his face. When it ended, he looked out the window at the city skyline and whispered. You made sure we'd know. He opened his laptop and began typing. A blog post. Titled, The Last Hike, How My Brother Caught His Killers After Death. And as he hit publish, his phone buzzed with a message. It was a screenshot of Emily. In handcuffs. Walking through the airport. Eyes down. Future gone. Justice, finally, catching up. 2 months later, the courtroom was packed. News vans lined the street outside. Reporters whispered urgently into cameras. Social media buzzed with hashtags like #JusticeForBen and #HoneymoonKillers. The true crime world couldn't get enough. A husband dead on a solo hike. A wife posting vacation photos with her ex. And a GoPro video that spoke from beyond the grave. Emily Wallace stood before the judge in a navy blue prison jumpsuit. Her face was pale, hair pulled back in a tight, joyless knot. Jason sat behind her at the defense table, eyes sunken, jaw clenched. The judge looked at her sternly. You stand accused of conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and obstruction of justice. How do you plead? Emily's voice trembled. Guilty. A ripple moved through the gallery. Jason's lawyer stood up next. My client pleads not guilty. Jason didn't flinch. He wouldn't speak. Wouldn't confess. But it didn't matter. The evidence was too strong. The GPS logs, the burner phone, the plane tickets, the fingerprints on the GoPro. And most damning of all, Ben's voice. His words. Recorded in pain, in fear, in truth. By the third day of trial, Emily agreed to testify against Jason in exchange for a reduced sentence. Matt Wallace sat in the courtroom every day. He didn't blink. Didn't cry. Just sat there, silent, listening to how his brother's final days had been planned like a movie script. Emily told the court how she and Jason had followed Ben from the trailhead, hiding behind rocks, waiting for the moment when he'd be alone on the ledge. She told them how Jason had walked up behind Ben pretending to talk things out, how things escalated when Ben said he had evidence, screenshots, even backup logs. He said he knew, Emily said on the stand. Ben knew about me and Jason. He said he was going to report Jason for fraud. He said I'd lose everything. She sniffled, paused. I was scared. I begged Jason to stop. The prosecutor pressed, did he? Emily's voice dropped to a whisper. No. He grabbed Ben by the arm. I think Ben tried to step back, but his foot slipped. Then he screamed. She covered her face. He fell. The courtroom went still. And then, the prosecutor asked gently. Emily sobbed. He called for help. I wanted to go down there. But Jason said we couldn't. That we'd go to jail. So we ran. We left him. Matt stared at her, jaw clenched. The jury took only 2 hours to deliberate. Jason Abbott, guilty on all charges. Life without parole. Emily Wallace, sentenced to 18 years in prison with possibility of parole after 12, thanks to her cooperation. The courtroom emptied slowly, reporters swarming outside. Matt stood on the courthouse steps, the folded U.S. flag from Ben's memorial held tightly in his arms. When a reporter asked how he felt, he said only this. My brother wasn't just a victim. He was a witness. And even in death, he told the truth. That's how we caught them. Months passed. Emily's Instagram account was deactivated. Jason's name was scrubbed from social media. But Ben's story lived on. The blog post Matt had written went viral, then became a podcast episode, then a national news story. Soon, a documentary crew approached him. They wanted to film a special called The Hike that spoke back. Matt agreed, on one condition. I don't want revenge, he said. I want the world to remember Ben the way I do. The final scene in the documentary showed Ben standing on the edge of the canyon, smiling, wind in his hair, holding the GoPro out in front of him. Behind the video, his voice echoed from the recovered clip. If anyone finds this, tell my family I love them. And tell them, if this wasn't an accident. I didn't go down easy. The screen faded to black. A single line appeared. In memory of Benjamin Wallace, 1990 to 2023. He saw the fall coming. Back in Utah, Miguel Torres hiked to the same ridge where Ben had fallen. He stood there quietly, looking out at the endless sky. Then he reached into his pocket and placed a small wooden plaque on the nearest rock. It read. He spoke. We listened. Justice followed. And as the wind howled through the canyon, it sounded almost like a voice, carried from the earth itself. Ben Wallace. Gone, but never silenced.